The honeymoon day. On the day of our honeymoon, Lucas's secretary insisted on coming with us. When we arrived at the airport, she said she wanted to go hiking while I wanted to see the snow. Lucas hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he chose to follow his secretary's wish. Without even asking me, he changed our original itinerary. That day I didn't board the plane. Instead, I went alone to the ice city in the north. Lucas spent an entire week traveling with his secretary, and only after that did he call me. Olivia, are you already throwing tantrums on the very first day of marriage? I don't have the patience to spoil you all the time. But he seemed to have forgotten. On the day we were supposed to register our marriage, his secretary had a fever and called him. We never even got married. Chapter 1. I had begged Lucas so much that he finally agreed to go on a honeymoon with me. I had chosen the destination with so much hope and excitement. But on the day of the trip, Lucas brought his secretary along. The hand holding my suitcase suddenly went limp. I couldn't quite describe what I felt. As we approached the boarding gate, Lucas's secretary said she hadn't brought warm clothes and suggested not going to see the snow. While smiling at me, her eyes never left Lucas. Madam, why don't we go hiking instead? Lucas and I went a few days ago. It was just a small hill, but Lucas wanted more. She tilted her head slightly, casting a tender glance at Lucas. Lucas paused for a moment, then replied softly, "All right. The ice city is too cold. Your fragile body wouldn't be able to endure it." Not once did he bother to ask for my opinion. I just stood there in silence, watching him change our plans and book new tickets. And I also painfully noticed the intensity of love shining in the secretary's eyes. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. After 10 years of secretly loving Lucas, this was the first time I thought about giving up. I didn't follow them to the boarding gate. Instead, I called out to Lucas. He turned back, frowning slightly when he saw how far I had stayed behind. "Olivia, weren't you the one who asked for this honeymoon trip? And now you're throwing another tantrum?" So he did remember that it was our honeymoon. I thought he had already forgotten. I replied coldly, "I'm not going with you. You two can go alone." His frown deepened as he looked at me in silence. Nicole, the secretary, gently squeezed his fingers and shook her head. The airport was too crowded to make a scene. She let a tear fall, perfectly playing the role of the victim. "Boss, if Madam really wants to go to the ice city, I can endure the cold. You shouldn't fight because of me. Madam, the boss worked several sleepless nights just to take this 1 week off. Please try to understand him." Lucas looked at me a while longer, but seeing that I wasn't going to change my mind, he left me with just one sentence. "Don't regret it." He turned and walked toward the boarding gate. The woman wiped away her tears, gave me a faint smile, and hurried after him. After Lucas left, I stood frozen there for a long time, as if all my strength had been drained away. I don't know how long I remained like that, but eventually I boarded a plane alone heading for the northern ice city. Perhaps it was because the ice city was too cold, a coldness strong enough to freeze all my feelings for Lucas. During that week, I hardly thought about him at all. I had fun. I even lined up to get free candied fruit skewers and frozen pears. Just when I was thinking about staying a few more days, Lucas finally contacted me. He said, "Olivia, already throwing tantrums on the very first day of marriage? I don't have infinite patience to indulge you." I looked at the crooked snowman I had built and suddenly laughed. "There's no need anymore," I said. I swallowed the last bite of the candied fruit, and, for the first time, it was me who hung up on him. It seemed Lucas had forgotten. On the day we were supposed to register our marriage, his secretary had called him because she had a fever. Until now, we weren't even truly married. Chapter 2. While I was still far away in the ice city, news that Lucas was spending his honeymoon with Nicole had already spread throughout our social circle. During those days, I tried hard not to look at my phone, not knowing what Lucas and his secretary were doing. I only found out when a friend told me. They had spent a week traveling together. Nicole posted photos every day. "Today I went hiking with the boss." Sniff, sniff, he didn't wait for me. She wrote along with a picture of Lucas's back as he walked ahead. Then they went boating together, soaked in hot springs, and even went bungee jumping. They traveled through several cities, leaving traces everywhere like a couple in love. I couldn't deny it. Those photos hurt me. The next day, I bought a ticket back to the city, leaving the ice city behind. When the plane landed, I went straight to Lucas's company. I found Nicole and slammed the printed photos onto the table in front of her. Nicole, were you in such a hurry to show off in front of me? If you wanted to flaunt, at least wait until Lucas and I separate officially. Don't you have any shame? Don't you care what others think of you? The woman was startled, timidly biting her lip. Madam, you misunderstood. I only wanted to commemorate the trip, nothing more. Besides, the boss knew and agreed to it. The words Lucas agreed pierced my heart like needles. I thought it was just one of Nicole's tricks to hurt me, but no, Lucas was also complicit. He openly allowed another woman to humiliate me in front of everyone, letting others laugh at me for not being able to keep my own husband. While I was still struggling with the pain, Lucas opened the door. He handed Nicole a tissue to wipe her tears, then looked at me with a cold, unshakable expression. Olivia, this is not a place for you. Leave. I lifted my eyes to meet his, but all I found there was icy indifference. My eyes brimmed with tears I refused to shed. Something inside me swelled, ready to burst, and I quickly turned away to leave. But before I could get far, his voice stopped me. Olivia, this is the last time I'll tolerate your tantrums. If you pull something like this again, we'll get divorced. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips. How does one divorce a marriage without a certificate, without a ceremony, without a marriage at all? I turned back and looked at him. I watched as he gently wiped Nicole's tears with the tips of his fingers, so tender, so careful. Deep down, I had always known Nicole was different to Lucas. She had been his secretary since graduating from university. For 5 whole years, they had spent far more time together than Lucas ever spent with me, several times more. I once believed that if I loved Lucas enough, he would eventually love me back. But reality had slapped me brutally in the face. Love has never been about how much you give. Lucas didn't expect me to turn back around. His hand, still raised, twitched slightly in surprise. I smiled faintly. Lucas, there's no need to wait for next time. Let's end this here and now. Chapter 3, Madam, it's all my fault. I'll resign immediately. Please don't blame the boss. Nicole clung to Lucas's sleeve as another tear slid down her cheek. Boss, if you just spoil her a little, Madam will forgive you. Humph. If she wants to leave, let her. As long as she doesn't come crawling back later, that's fine. Hearing her endless pleas only made Lucas angrier. I watched in bitter amusement as she touched Lucas over and he didn't push her away. No one knew that after 5 years of chasing Lucas, I had never even succeeded in holding his hand. The day he agreed to be with me, I gathered all my courage to take his hand. But the moment my fingers brushed his pinky, he pulled away sharply. Lucas looked at me with that same cold distance and said indifferently, Sorry, I'm not used to it yet. That day my face burned with humiliation, and deep inside, a tiny seed of disappointment was planted. I kept telling myself, once we're married, things will get better. But today, I finally understood simply couldn't bear my touch. I gave Lucas one last lingering look, but this time, with no attachment left in me. When I returned home, I told my family I no longer wanted to be with Lucas. They stared at me in shock, though their expressions carried discomfort. It turned out my family's company was in trouble, and we desperately needed the financial support of Lucas's corporation. That engagement could not be broken so easily unless we found an even stronger backer than Lucas. So, in less than half a day, with my dignity trampled, I called Lucas again. I wanted to beg him for the sake of our families that, even if we didn't marry, he wouldn't withdraw his investment from my family's business. If I stepped aside willingly, he would be free to be with Nicole. After 15 unanswered calls, someone finally picked up, and on the other end came a voice. Miss, the boss is busy negotiating. Best not to disturb him. I drew in a deep breath. When you're the one asking for something, you must swallow your pride. Then when he's finished, please ask him to call me back. Nicole's mocking voice shifted, dripping with disdain. The boss has no time for irrelevant people. Why don't you come yourself instead? She gave me an address, and I rushed over. When I arrived, Nicole was waiting at the door as if she had been expecting me. Miss, the boss just finished his meeting. He's waiting for you inside. But as I pushed the door open, I saw more than a dozen people inside drinking and talking, all of them business elites. Lucas lifted his wine glass to his lips, his face darkening as his eyes landed on me. Get out. Chapter 4. Behind me, Nicole was gone. Only then did I realize I had walked straight into her trap. I cursed silently and was about to close the door when a voice stopped me. He sat opposite Lucas, his cold, imposing aura even stronger than Lucas's. The moment he spoke, Lucas's displeasure softened enough to reluctantly let me stay. Once inside the private lounge, I could clearly see the man who had stopped me. It was Eric, the eldest son of the Eric group. He lounged lazily on the sofa, legs crossed, but his eyes scanned me from head to toe. We locked eyes for a full minute. Suddenly, Lucas stood up and moved in front of me, blocking Eric's view. What are you doing here? I didn't want to stay a second longer, but the words caught in my throat. Before Lucas lost patience, I forced myself to speak. Lucas, about our engagement. Huh. Already regretting it after half a day, Olivia? Do you want me so badly you've come crawling back? Lucas let out a cold, mocking laugh. The others in the room erupted in laughter. Everyone knew about my pathetic love for Lucas. Now they enjoyed the spectacle. Realizing Lucas had misunderstood, I wanted to explain quickly. But before I could open my mouth, the sharp crash of glasses echoed through the room. Laughter ceased instantly. Eric stood, adjusting his jacket, a faint smile on his lips, but fury burning in his eyes. Since Mr. Lucas is busy, let's leave it here for today. With Eric's exit, everyone else followed. Nicole seized the moment, rushing to Lucas with a voice laced with false guilt. Boss, I'm sorry. I couldn't stop, madam. Lucas waved his hand, rubbing his temples in exhaustion, his expression growing even more fatigued. He had managed to gather everyone there to negotiate with Eric. The land in the western part of the city was highly coveted by Eric's family. Lucas had hoped to strike a deal. And now I had ruined everything. Frustrated, he turned his anger on me. Don't make me repeat myself. Get out now. I never expected Lucas to shout at me like that. Before, even in his contempt, he had never been cruel with his words. His outburst shook me to my core. My eyes filled with tears. I wanted to defend myself, to tell him I wasn't here seeking reconciliation. But in that moment, I couldn't utter a single word. No matter my reasons, in his eyes, I was the culprit. Furious, Lucas stormed out of the room with his secretary in tow. Left behind in silence, I stood alone. And it was then, finally, that I cried with all my heart. This is how it feels to tear yourself away from love. Chapter 5. I kept my head lowered and cried for a long time, not realizing that someone else had entered the room. Suddenly a voice startled me, cutting off my sobs. Stop crying. It's too noisy. I lifted my swollen, red eyes and looked up at the man standing above me. He had a phone in his hand and held it up as if to apologize. Sorry, I forgot my mobile. After a short pause, he spoke again. I didn't expect Miss Olivia to be so deeply in love with Boss Lucas. Admirable. There was a hint of restrained resentment in his voice, something I didn't understand at the time. I didn't want to continue making a fool of myself in front of a stranger, so I stood up, wiped my tears, and replied softly, I don't like him anymore. Never again. Perhaps my reputation preceded me, because the man let out a cold chuckle, clearly not believing me. I grew nervous, desperate to distance myself from Lucas. Really, I didn't come to reconcile with him. I only wanted to ask that after our separation, he wouldn't withdraw his company's investment in my family's business. The man fell silent for a moment. I don't know why I felt the need to explain everything to him. I shook out my skirt, grabbed my bag, and was about to leave. But Eric blocked my way. His eyes were dark and intense, his gaze burning. Are you serious? Do you really not want him anymore? I nodded firmly. His eyes shifted slightly, and slowly a smile spread across his lips, growing wider and wider. He brushed his hand over my hair as though congratulating me. Good girl. That night, I don't even know how Eric ended up taking me home. Lying in bed, I was still completely dazed. Eric had said he would help save my family's company, but his only condition was that I marry him. Frustrated, I pulled the blanket over my head, trying to push away the chaos in my mind. I tossed and turned, and as expected, I couldn't sleep at all that night. Chapter 6. The situation gave me no time to think. In the morning, my parents informed me that the funds Lucas's company had promised had been cancelled. My father paced the room in desperation, while my mother wept silently. I wasn't sure if it had been because of my visit to Lucas yesterday, but the timing was far too exact. Guilt gnawed at me. After a long silence, my father, his face flushed with shame, looked at me with difficulty. "Olivia, could you go ask Lucas to help us? Papa really has no other choice." I knew how much it cost my father, who had always protected me, to speak those words. I forced a smile and nodded lightly. "It's fine, Dad. Leave it to me." After everything that happened with Lucas yesterday, I didn't want to see him again. But compared to a stranger who suddenly wanted to marry me, Lucas still seemed like the safer option. I went straight to his company. This time Nicole didn't stop me. It was as if she had already been expecting me. She greeted me with a smile and personally led me into Lucas's office, carefully shutting the door behind me. I saw Lucas's back as he leaned forward, holding his head with one hand in exhaustion. He didn't give me a chance to speak, nor did he turn to face me. "If you've come about the funding, you can leave. The board has already made its decision." "Lucas, are you punishing me because of what happened with Nicole?" Lucas turned, his eyes cold and stern as always. "Olivia, everyone must face the consequences of their actions. Nicole is not someone you can mistreat so easily. I can't help you with the funds." Once Lucas made a decision, it was nearly impossible to change his mind. I laughed bitterly. How foolish I had been to think that after all these years, I held a special place in his heart. How ridiculous. I didn't beg him anymore. As I left, I made sure to close the door behind me, sealing forever the world we once shared. That was fine. No debts, no ties. Miss Olivia, leaving so quickly? How pathetic. So desperate you've become cheap. Not even a shred of respect for old times. Nicole's mocking voice trailed after me. I glanced at her out of the corner of my eye, rage burning in my chest. Without giving her a chance to react, I strode up and slapped her twice. Without looking back, I walked away. Chapter 7. After leaving Lucas's company, I called Eric. In less than 3 seconds, his lazy voice came through, as if he had just woken up. "Not even 3 days have passed, and Miss has already made her decision? No rush. I can wait. Take your time." I gripped the phone tightly, my eyes lifting one last time toward Lucas's office window. Finally, I closed my eyes. "Eric, let's get married." In less than an hour, Eric's funds had been transferred into my family's company account. My parents called me immediately to come home, and for the first time, they scolded me severely. Even if the company collapses, we would never sell our daughter. "I'm going to return that money right now." My mother also wept, begging me, "Olivia, we don't want you to sacrifice yourself for us." I struggled to hold back the lump in my throat and forced a smile. Eric and I truly love each other. I'm willing to marry him. With a string of lies, I painted myself as a woman who had forgotten Lucas and was now madly in love with Eric. Half convinced, my parents looked up Eric's number and called him to confirm. Before I could stop them, he had already answered. And, to my surprise, his attitude was exceptionally kind. "Uncle, Auntie, it wasn't our intention to keep this from you. Olivia is very shy. Don't blame her. If you want to blame someone, blame me." I don't know what else Eric said, but all of my father's anger melted away instantly. He ended the call laughing heartily, and it lasted nearly an hour. When he hung up, he couldn't stop praising Eric. What a fine young man. Truly worthy of being my son-in-law. Chapter 8. That afternoon, Eric arrived at my home with a car full of gifts. My mother quickly sent the maid to buy more groceries. After dinner, Eric suddenly proposed that we go register our marriage. His words were so unexpected that my entire family was left in shock. Having praised their good son-in-law so much, my parents had no way to refuse. Half-dazed, just before the registry office closed, Eric and I received our marriage certificate. He said he wanted to give me a grand wedding and that he had already chosen the date. Since Eric asked that the wedding remain a secret for now, the news didn't leak out. In the following days, I was consumed with wedding photos, choosing furniture so busy, I barely had time to breathe. I couldn't even meet up with my friends. When they came to visit me at home, they saw the staff delivering my wedding dress. That was how the rumor of my wedding began to spread. Meanwhile, in a private lounge, Lucas had been drinking almost non-stop. He always left completely drunk. One day, someone brought up my wedding, joking, "Lucas, when you were supposed to marry Olivia, you didn't even arrange a wedding. Maybe now she just wants to pressure you into making it up to her. What do you say, are you going to her wedding or not?" Lucas didn't respond immediately. He downed a glass of strong liquor in one gulp, his eyes flashing with a trace of disdain. "She's always causing drama. I won't keep indulging her." The group erupted in applause. "Bravo, Lucas. An example for all men." They laughed and joked, imagining my humiliation on my wedding day. Poor Olivia, she'll cry when she sees Lucas doesn't show up. And not just cry, maybe she'll even file for divorce out of sheer misery. Ha ha, that would be perfect for Lucas. Then he could finally be with his precious secretary. Lucas kept drinking in silence, growing more and more irritated. Suddenly, he stood up, his gaze icy as he looked around at them. "Olivia is not someone you can speak of however you like. Watch your words." Chapter 9. I never imagined Lucas would come looking for Mehmet less in the middle of the night. My parents were already asleep. The maid asked if she should let him in. I told her to open the door, and pulling on a jacket, I went downstairs. Lucas reeked of alcohol. His cheeks fleshy, was clearly drunk. To avoid waking my parents, I led him outside to the yard to talk. The night was cold, and I just wanted to end it quickly and go back inside. "What do you want?" I asked. Lucas stared at me intently and demanded, "Are you organizing a wedding?" I didn't know how he had found out, but I had no intention of hiding it. I nodded silently. Lucas let out a cold laugh, his face filled with disdain. "Olivia, do you really need a wedding that badly? Didn't I already take you on a honeymoon? Wasn't that enough?" He actually had the audacity to bring up that so-called honeymoon. I shot him a sarcastic glance, but didn't bother to argue. It wasn't worth wasting my breath. "Whether I have a wedding or not is none of your concern. I didn't ask you to come here." He had only come to cause a scene in the middle of the night. I turned to leave. From behind me, I heard his voice, tight with anger. "Perfect, Olivia. Let's see what you do that day because I won't be there." Watching my silhouette fade into the darkness, Lucas's headache grew worse. He didn't know what had gotten into Eric lately, always opposing him. The investment that had been promised to Olivia's family had been cancelled by the board. Lucas was drowning in work, with no time or patience to pamper her. And now Olivia was organizing a wedding her parents were already beginning to regret agreeing to the marriage. At a time like this, she should have been quietly at his side. Lucas sighed deeply and shook his head helplessly. He thought to himself, "She's the wife I chose. What else can I do?" Chapter 10. On the day of the wedding, many people from our social circle came to watch the spectacle. Even several employees from Eric's family business attended. Such a rare event, everyone wanted to witness it. Lucas failed to convince his parents to go, but he himself put on a groom's suit. He couldn't bear for Olivia to become a laughingstock. But just minutes after leaving, his secretary Nicole called. Her voice over the phone was weak and broken. "Mr. Lucas, my asthma. I don't have my inhaler, help me." Lucas knew Nicole had asthma. Days earlier, she had told him she was running out of medication and planned to visit the hospital. But with so much work, she probably hadn't had the time. In a way, it was his fault. Lucas checked the time list, then an hour remained before the wedding. If he hurried, he might still make it. Lucas turned around, picked up the medicine at the hospital, and rushed to Nicole's apartment. He had been there many times. The security guard knew him and let him in. He even had a spare key to Nicole's place. But when he opened the door, he found Nicole in pajamas, sitting calmly on the sofa eating fruit. The moment she saw him, Nicole froze, quickly trying to hide the fruit. Her cheeks were flushed, showing no trace of an asthma attack. In a weak voice, she tried to explain, "Lucas, I found the medicine, I'm fine now." Lucas didn't believe her. But at that moment, he couldn't waste time arguing. He tossed the medicine at her, ready to leave and find Olivia. But Nicole suddenly threw her arms around him from behind. She clung tightly to his waist, refusing to let go. Through sobs, she pleaded, "Lucas, if you don't even love her, why do you still care so much? Let her be humiliated, what does it matter? Don't go to her. Haven't you already done enough for her?" For the first time, Lucas pried her hands off him, truly furious with her. Nicole, whatever happens between her and me is none of your business. Let go of me. Chapter 11. I sat in the dressing room, staring at my reflection in the mirror so beautiful, it almost didn't feel real. The wedding I had waited for all these years wasn't given to me by Lucas, but by Eric. I had waited, longed for Lucas for so long, and in the end, he never came. At that moment, everything I had lived through felt like a distant dream, drifting farther and farther away from me. I smiled at the woman in the mirror. I smiled until I could no longer hold back the tears, letting them stream freely down my face. The makeup artist chuckled softly. You and Mr. Eric make a perfect couple. The bride must be crying from happiness. My mother wiped away my tears even as her own kept falling. Our Olivia is marrying someone she loves. Mama is so happy for you. My parents knew nothing about the agreement between Eric and me, and I would never let them find out. It didn't matter why Eric decided to marry Mayhay had helped my family. I accepted it willingly. It was a transaction I embraced with a clear heart. My father held my hand tightly, guiding me toward Eric, struggling not to cry as he placed my hand into his. Eric's hand was warm and firm, completely enclosing mine. He gently caressed my palm and whispered, "Why are your hands so cold?" His eyes overflowed with tenderness and concern, making me feel slightly uneasy. Under the gaze of everyone present, Eric and I exchanged rings. Beneath the dazzling lights, he slowly leaned down, completing the final rite of the ceremony. His lips, unlike his hands, were cool, yet they burned with warmth. Surrounded by blessings, I looked at the sparkling diamond ring on my finger, and in that instant, I understood I was married. Married to a man who, to me, was almost a complete stranger. Chapter 12. After changing my clothes and toasting alongside Eric with our friends and family, Lucas suddenly burst through the door. He was breathing heavily, as if he had run from far away. He froze at the threshold, his eyes red, then stumbled closer to me. His voice trembled slightly. "Olivia, who is he?" I hadn't expected such a reaction from Lucas. Wasn't he the one who said he didn't love me? Why, then, did he look so hurt now? Before I could answer, Eric gently pulled me behind him, shielding me completely. "I'm Olivia's husband. Welcome to our wedding," Eric said politely, extending his hand. In that moment, Lucas was completely paralyzed. His eyes locked on the wedding ring on Eric's hand, and a bitter taste filled his mouth. He had never imagined Olivia could marry another man. Lucas had always been certain she would love him forever. How could she? How could she just leave him behind like that? If she had wanted a wedding, he would have given it to her. If she had wanted a honeymoon, he would have taken her anywhere she desired. But now he had no more chances. That day, everyone saw Lucas's despair. Everyone but May remained behind Eric, never once looking back to witness his misery. Chapter 13. Lucas spent 2 days drunk at the club until his parents came to drag him home. When his friends finally managed to lift him up, he could barely stand. His father, beside himself, slapped him hard across the face. His mother immediately pulled him into her arms, crying in pain. His father, furious and disappointed, growled, "Useless. To ruin your life over a woman you've shamed our entire family." Because there were others present, Lucas's father didn't say much more. He only asked, "When did you divorce Olivia? Why didn't you tell us?" At the sound of my name, Lucas finally lifted his head. His red eyes glistened with tears. "We didn't divorce." Everyone was stunned. Lucas's mother, furious, was about to rush out to find me. But, through heart-wrenching sobs, Lucas confessed, "Because we never married." That day, when they were supposed to sign the marriage papers, Nicole had fallen ill. Lucas had already stepped into the registry office, but in the end, he turned back. He said Nicole rarely got sick, and he couldn't ignore her. He told Olivia to wait, that he would return. But that day, he forgot to come back. And Olivia seemed to have forgotten to remind him. Afterward, it wasn't that Lucas didn't know they weren't legally married, just thought, what did it matter? Even if he was sometimes impatient with her, he had grown used to always having Olivia by his side, believing she belonged to him. That was why, unconsciously, he had dismissed the importance of the paper that would bind them. Now, Lucas drowned in regret. Chapter 14. The day after the wedding, Eric flew me to the Ice City. He stayed by my side as we skied, built snowmen, and ate candied fruit skewers. Wrapped in thick coats, hats, and gloves, we explored the entire city together. That afternoon, I had just woken from a nap when I saw Eric speaking on the phone in the yard. Sunlight bathed him, wrapping him in a halo of warmth. In that instant, I suddenly realized I was beginning to feel a faint attachment to this man. When he saw me awake, Eric quickly ended the call and ran to my side, gently brushing my forehead. "Did I wake you? Why not sleep a little longer?" I stared at him, bewildered, not understanding why he treated me so well. These days I had wanted to ask him why me. As if reading my mind, he took me to a place. It was a photography studio, its walls covered with pictures. But my eyes only saw one. A little girl bundled in winter clothes, crouched beside a snowman, happily eating a candied fruit skewer. I recognized myself instantly. The owner of the studio came over, greeted Eric, and when he noticed me staring at the photo, he smiled and explained, "That picture was brought here by Mr. Eric." I thought it was so beautiful that I begged to keep a copy. I slowly turned toward the man beside me, lifting my head as my eyes filled with tears. "Eric, since when have you loved me?" He wiped my tears away and pulled me into a gentle embrace, whispering softly, "Since before you ever loved Lucas. When you were chasing after him, blind to everyone else. I appeared in front of you 99 times, and not once did you look at me. So I waited, and I waited hoping that one day you would finally turn to me. I had never known that during my 5 years of unrequited love, there had been someone silently following me, patiently waiting for me. That day, Eric and I embraced in the middle of the ice and snow, and it felt as though spring had arrived." The owner of the studio captured that moment and gifted the photo to us. Chapter 15. Eric took me traveling for 3 months before we returned. Every place Lucas had once taken Nicole, Eric now took me. Eric always said I should never envy another woman, that whatever I desired, he would do everything in his power to give it to me. The day we came back, a friend told me that Lucas had fired Nicole. No one knew the exact reason, but apparently Nicole had moved to a rival company. Recently, Lucas's company had lost several major contracts, chaos had broken out, and the board of directors, dissatisfied, forced Lucas to resign from all his positions. Once Nicole's usefulness was gone, she was naturally cast aside. Later, I learned the real reason for Lucas and Nicole's separation. One day, when Lucas returned to the company, he overheard Nicole chatting with colleagues. "Nicole, should we start calling you Mrs. Lucas now?" "Yes, Nicole. You'll have to take care of us later, won't you?" "Oh, don't say that." "Lucas, and I haven't made things official yet," she replied, though her eyes gleamed with pride and ambition, as if she were already his wife. A few compliments were enough to make Nicole lose herself. "It's all that shameless Olivia's fault that we were delayed so many years. If not for her, Lucas and I would already be together." At that moment, Lucas appeared. He stood frozen at the door, staring at them with disdain until his gaze locked on Nicole. "Repeat what you just said." Nicole hadn't expected Lucas to hear her true thoughts. She tried to feign weakness to cover herself. But this time, Lucas gave her no chance. With just one look, her colleagues revealed the truth, even showing Lucas the photos Nicole had posted during their so-called honeymoon. They handed him the images, and as Lucas studied them, his face grew tense, fury burning in his eyes. He had only permitted her to post one photo to provoke Olivia's jealousy and draw her back to him. He never imagined that this seemingly obedient secretary had published photos for 7 straight days, each one deliberately angled to imply intimacy. In that instant, Lucas finally understood why, after that honeymoon, Olivia had wanted to leave him. The day Lucas fired Nicole, she begged him for a long time. But he showed not the slightest trace of mercy. Rejected, Nicole broke into bitter laughter, looking at him with contempt. She said with scorn, "Lucas, if you had cared for her even a little more, Olivia would never have left you or found someone else. Ha ha, hey, we deserve this." Chapter 16. Half a year after Eric and I married, We were expecting a child. During a checkup at the hospital, we ran into Lucas. He had just left the neurology department seeking treatment for insomnia. His head was lowered, his body visibly thinner, with a shadow of sorrow clinging to him. When he saw us, Lucas froze for a moment. Something flickered briefly in his eyes. He didn't greet us, but as he passed me, he stopped. He didn't dare look directly at me, keeping a respectful distance. The voice that had once been cold and calm was now hoarse and broken. "Olivia, I'm sorry." With those words, he hurried away, almost running until he disappeared into the crowd. Seeing me staring after Lucas's back for so long, the man at my side spoke lazily. "What's wrong? Do you pity your old love?" I tapped Eric's chest lightly, but my eyes remained fixed on the direction Lucas had gone. "He's changed a lot." Eric turned my face toward him and replied indifferently, "Yes, he looks older." He took my hand, and together we left the hospital. A year later, I gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Both families were overjoyed, arguing playfully over who would help raise them. When the children turned 3, each grandmother and grandfather took one, leaving Eric and me with our own world of 2. Eric took me traveling to countless places, tasting every delicacy, living endless adventures. In our life together, we never argued, never fought. And so we lived a life full of happiness until the very end.